Welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm Kathryn Peterson here with Michael Regan. And today we're going to continue our little almost mini series we have, let's call it, on some business planning for the year. And one of the questions that I got a lot about the business plan, simple business plan, is the theme word or theme phrase, or let's just call it the theme for the year. So I'm going to bring Michael in. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, Catherine, always good to be with you. Always good to do some nuts and bolts on these podcasts. Always good to get into some of the mechanics of what makes a plan really good. Because a lot of people put energy and effort into their plan, and sometimes it's these nuances that are the difference between a good plan and a great plan. So I think this is a great topic, and I'm happy that we're digging into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently guided our regional group through the business plan, and the question that I kept getting over and over was, "Hey, how do people come up with a theme word? What's the theme for the year, and how do I define that?" So first, let's maybe talk about the why, because I know that's always your first question. So why do you think it's important that people do have a theme for the year or for the quarter even?
Well, if you look at the purpose of the theme, which should answer that why, it's really all about creating a level of focus and rally around what this year is all about. So choosing a word or a short phrase is a really simple way of getting people to all recognize, are we heading in the same direction? Is this, do we share the same spirit around the work that we're about to do? Do we understand the energy and the direction it's flowing, because we're going to put in a lot of hard work and we want to make sure everyone's oaring in the same direction, as we might say. And so, yeah, if you think about it, the theme gives us an opportunity to get everybody aimed and oriented toward a direction that we share. Each of us has different levels of individual participation. Each of us has individual roles and responsibilities. Each of us even comes to the table with our own personal energy. Some of us are just naturally energetic. Some of us need a little more get up and go. But once the theme is clear, we eliminate a lot of the excuses of confusion. And so I really like the theme, and it gives us a great place to start, because you can ask a simple question like, Catherine, what is, if this year could go wildly successfully, what will this year be about? What's the real storyline of this year? And usually when you get teammates talking like that, you'll hear a word, a phrase, a sentence, and before you know it, everybody starts gathering around oh yeah, okay, that's it. It'll whittle down, and you usually do. You end up with 1 to 5 words that usually captures that theme.
And one quote I liked was, "It guides decisions instead of creating pressure."
Hmm.
So I think that is a good way to look at it. Is it can it be a filter a little bit for someone's decisions during the year?
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you look at it that way, if you choose to look at it that way, it's similar to the way we look at our convictions. They do become filters by which we can make decisions that are yes or no. So if your theme is now one of those kind of this year's conviction, so to speak, yeah, it definitely gives you that. But what I like about the way you set that up is it keeps you in a forward focus. You don't have to
Mhm.
be confused if you're looking back like, wait, what did we say? Why did we say that? What was that supposed to mean? It's very forward focused. It's guiding us forward. And so in that respect, it serves almost like a light, a lantern, something, if you can visualize, like out ahead of us, that's keeping us moving toward where we're going. And I think that's important, because themes become something that you can really work with. And I've seen a lot of teams do that. I'm sure that's where we'll
Mhm.
we'll go with this conversation. But they're more than just the word on the page once we've all embraced them. And let's talk more about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one I thought was good was, "Who do I want to be this year? Not what do I want to accomplish?"
Yeah, because the what do I want to accomplish is really a goal.
Right.
Where you're right, who do I want to be is much more thematic. So you're wise to separate those two for our audience, because that might get confusing. They might just think, oh, this is a different way
Mhm.
to state a goal. And you're exactly right. That is the difference between who and what. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So then what are some tips that people might use to start to narrow down their theme for the year?
Well, one of the things I love, and this is probably where my personality enters this conversation, is I prefer whether it's a journal or a whiteboard and be really liberal at first. Like
Hmm.
write down lots of words, write down lots of things. As a team, have an exercise where we're really exchanging those words very liberally so that we get as much as we can. And the reason I like that, Catherine, is I think often the theme starts to show up. You just start to see the common denominators once everybody participates. Because you might say tomato, I might say tomato, but we're talking about the same thing. And I think it's important to give everybody the voice. And the only way to do that is get everybody's thoughts up on that whiteboard or down in the journal, and that way you've got this beautiful reservoir of thought that you can draw from. And then that becomes part of the exercise we move toward is okay, if that's what the year is about in lots of words, what are the common words? What are the synonyms? If the language experts listening
Hmm.
want to use the right word, where do we find those synonyms that can bring us down to maybe fewer words? And the key to that filtering process is that there's more power in simplicity. So if we can find a way to simplify all these words into a short phrase or even all the way down to a word, there's more power in that. I like to think of, a lot of folks were big fans of this Apple TV series a few years ago during COVID, where we had a American football coach who goes over to Great Britain to become a soccer coach.
Yep.
Anybody remember the theme that was hung up on the wall in his locker room? That's the
I
big
didn't
yellow
see that.
sign that said believe. And so believe became a theme. It was like a rally cry for their team. And everything he built his messages on was around that theme. And that theme really gave the team something to focus on together when they came into the locker room and when they left to go out on the field to play. And so I think the simpler you can get, the better. And I think that was certainly illustrated in that particular series.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other thing I just want to bring up for those listening who don't have a team and they say, well, we can't whiteboard it because it's just me. You can do that on your own as well. It might be that journal out some ideas and then start to cross them off, go back to it. It might be that you get out your computer and thesaurus it. That's okay. So you can come up with this on your own, even if you don't have a team. So absolutely. Or work with two or three people who are doing their business plan at the same time. A partner, might be a real estate agent, different people. So don't feel like it's not possible if you don't have a team.
Yeah, good comment there. Be your own Ted Lasso. You don't have to
Yeah.
have the whole team.
That's
Just
right.
do it. By the way, I think the English language experts out there are really proud of us. You're using thesaurus, I'm using synonym. I mean, this is going to be a grammar syntax episode before you know it. We're really crushing it.
Absolutely. So, some things that I think are little tips that I wanted to bring up for coming up with this theme. I kind of cheat, and the theme word sometimes is at the beginning, but I typically will push it to the end and look at my plan and then come up with the theme or the word that I want to use. Because a lot of times that helps me say, you know what, now that I've really thought through this, this is the direction I want to go. This will help wrap up all this together into one. But some people really have to have that theme first and then derive their goals from that theme. So I don't know if you have any comments on first, last, or in the middle.
I think your intuition is great on this one because as I've led teams or individuals through this exercise, you've nailed it. Often when we start with the theme, which should directionally give us a sense of the direction this plan is going to go. That's what we're looking for. You get people that are stuck. They just feel like, well, I don't know. They overthink the exercise of the word or the phrase, and then it's derailing the momentum to create the plan. So when that's happening, I will tell them, hey, maybe let's skip that step. Let's go ahead and start exercising the goals, the commitments, the projects, and then let's do exactly what you said. Let's look back on that and say, no, what are the common denominators of all these things? What word or phrase is starting to rise to the surface now that you've got some of those plans on paper? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I mean, we tend to instruct this exercise a certain way because we've seen it work. But as you know, we coach entrepreneurial leaders. And so I hope those of you listening maybe value that about building champions is we're not going to aim you toward the this way or the right way, the wrong way. We're not binary about this. We're simply giving you a tried and true best practice based on our experience. But what we love is finding new and creative ways to take an old practice and make it better, which I think is what you intuitively do there, Kathryn. You're saying, hey, maybe I need some I need some work before the theme shows up. And for those of you listening who value that, take Kathryn's advice and give yourself some latitude on that one. I think that's a great way to approach it. And you mentioned this in the setup, so I'll put it out there. Don't be shocked if maybe it's not at the end. Maybe it shows up somewhere in the middle because as you're working,
Mhm.
suddenly the light bulb comes on. Theme is there to help you. It is there to serve you, not you to serve it. So don't make it a daunting exercise. Have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question I thought was helpful when people are coming up with it, where do you feel most alive or aligned? And I think that's a another good way. Or what was missing last year? Where was there some friction last year? Um, for me, there's certain words that are more fun to me or more inspiring, and that's what I try to do when I come up with my plan. But I think it's good if we maybe give some examples of themes that we've seen in the past. And I think that always gets people thinking. So I would love to hear some of yours.
Well, I think if I'm understanding where you're going with that, I think what's beautiful about the exercise is it fits within a larger framework. So often we're at this spot in that framework after we've done a deep dive in our reflection, which I know we've talked about in a previous episode. So if you can imagine having worked on that exercise, you're exactly right. Things start to show up in that exercise. Some of the questions that you've already spent time on start to develop a theme. And you may not recognize that as you're writing them out,
Hmm.
but as you look back and review that reflection, you may realize, oh, that is an area that was a gap. And I don't want it to be a gap again. Or that was an area where I kind of forgot I got some lift and I want to double down on that. Or, hey, that was an area in that exercise of the keep, improve, start, stop that I said I would start and I never did. So I'm going to, burn the ships this year, which by the way, that's a good theme. So
Hmm.
those become opportunities that exist in a planning process. And I think you're wise to point that out that they do sometimes show up as you're asking those really good questions, as you're reflecting and reviewing. And so give yourself permission in the process to recognize that you don't have to overthink this. Sometimes you've already come up with the theme and you just need to look back at your own work to realize, oh, that's the
Hmm.
word. These don't, look, folks, we're not writing the Magna Carta here. We're writing a New Year's business plan. We're here to make this easy on you. And so a theme hopefully really simplifies this process, which is the beauty of it. Keep it simple. That'd be my advice.
That's a good theme in itself.
So if you look at this holistically, Kathryn, once someone has these words, here's a trick that might be one of the tips that I recommend for my creative clients. And not everyone feels this way, but some do. Often those words just feel very two-dimensional. They're very black and white. It's pen on paper or keystroke on a screen. And they want something that feels a little more three-dimensional or maybe even more colorful. And so the words that they've written suddenly conjure an image and they transfer their theme into an actual photograph or a graphic or a
Mm.
drawing because the visual of that is more powerful than the words that inspired it. And I think about, I don't know if you've met artists, but my kids tend to lean toward the arts, and Sydney in particular is a great designer, and this often happens with her. The words that are inspiring for her create visuals of things she can draw, things she can paint, things she can sculpt, things she can create. If that's you and you're wired that way, don't get hung up on just words. Words can sometimes lead you to things that
Mm.
compound into a really great image, and that image can be just as inspiring as the words themselves. So, limit yourself to the words if you're a creative. Keep going and come up with one that inspires you to draw or to paint.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if I've ever heard about that. That's kind of fun. I don't know if I made an image or painted, it would not be a good theme for the year. So that was that probably is not going to happen for me.
Well, let
But
me give you a visual for this, and you'll understand, because I've had some clients that have said to me the hard work they're doing has to result in a payoff. There has to be a payoff for all this hard work. And once they're clear on what the payoff is, you may find out it's as simple as my family and I work this hard so we can play hard. So they're a work hard, play hard family. Well, if the theme of the year is all about work hard, play hard, which words on a page, that works for
hmm
them. They've got that
hmm
theme, but it's not visually attractive enough. They might create a graphic that's kind of like a circle with a half line through it. So it's like two hemispheres, and on half of it, maybe they've got a muscle arm. That's the work hard, and maybe on the bottom half of that circle, they've got a bicycle, because maybe their play hard is let's go ride bikes. And so that visual right in the middle of their plan is a good reminder of work hard, play hard. They didn't have to write the words anymore. That was a
hmm
visual. They could see it. And so you can now imagine what that looks like. I had a client once who drew a palm tree in the middle of the plan. I'm like, what's the palm tree? What are we doing? And it was really simple. She said, I've got to take a vacation this year. And this palm tree reminds me to get to the beach. Good enough for me. You could have written get to the beach. That could have been the theme. But the palm tree with one image spoke all those words louder and more clearly than the words themselves. So I think
Oh,
it's a practice that maybe some of the listeners out there might have some fun with.
yeah, I love that. That's a great thing. Okay, so now that you have the theme, how do you apply the theme? How does the word show up in your plan, in your
Mm.
schedule, in your, in what you do every day?
Well, you hinted at this earlier, so let's maybe tie it back to something you said. If you think of this theme now as a really good tool in your arsenal, use it as a filter. As you're going to now go down the road of executing your plan, you're going to do the things you said you're going to do. You're going to complete the work you said you're going to complete. But at the very same time, both of those are happening. Real life is also happening, which means new opportunities are coming your way. You're getting a call from a client for a scenario you hadn't thought about before. You're getting a call from a partner with a new opportunity you hadn't considered before. You're even looking at maybe market conditions, and you see, oh my gosh, that wasn't in my plan because I didn't know these events were going to happen, but now I want to rally to that. Real life is happening. We're moving forward. And so a theme proves to be a really good filter tool for us to real quickly say, hey, does this fit with my theme? If my theme was work hard, play hard, and this is just going to be more work hard and no play, maybe it's time to pause and say, well, how am I going to work some play into this new idea that I just took on? Or it
hmm
could be the opposite. It could be, you're veering too far off into the destination of the theme and not getting the work done. It's a really good tool in your arsenal when you want to execute with excellence. So I like revisiting the theme. So that's why I think Ted Lasso hung it on the wall, because you can't just say it once and hope everybody remembers. You got to point to it every single time we're going to make a decision to do hard work, because this theme is going to rally us. So for some of our folks, that becomes their screensaver. For some of our folks, that becomes the sticker they put on their binder. For some of our folks, that becomes, I've seen people frame their theme and hang it on the wall. They decided to make it formal. I don't know that there's a right answer to that, Kathryn, but if it's not present in your daily prep or your weekly, layout of the plan for the week, the risk is you end up forgetting the why behind all the what you're going to do. And this is the proverbial you climbed a ladder only to realize when you got to the top, you leaned it against the wrong wall. This theme helps you remember the right wall. So you keep all of that energy toward a direction that really matters most to you.
That whole paragraph was amazing. So thank you for that. I took about 12 things. out of that. So that's good.
I'll do my best to not overbake it then.
No, that's great. That was perfect. So I think something I would have also talked through some examples, which you brought up some as well. So one I thought of was curiosity and or be curious. And I think why that one I liked a lot was because it was, hey, a lot of times in our business, we just think, oh, I have my systems down. And so I think what that theme created for me was saying, hey, I'm going to be curious about the why. I'm going to be curious about exploring new things and new ways and new systems and new people. And it's kind of honestly my theme for my life. A lot of times you probably have said that to me as well. But I think that's where a theme word can be great is say, hey, is this something I'm curious about to stick with my theme? Is this something that I want to explore more of? And so I think that's where that hopefully gives someone an example of where a theme can kind of stay in the back of your brain for a while.
All right, well, I got a great tip on this one, or at least I think it's a great tip. You'll decide. You may decide that's a terrible tip. If you come up with a theme, it's a word, it's a short phrase, maybe 5 words or less, and you've now decided to embrace that. Throw that theme into Chat GPT and ask Chat to expand upon this theme. And what I mean by expand is what are some other things that in your curiosity you could explore? Maybe these are authors who've written books on this theme. And you might learn more from a thought leader who's put a lot of energy into the very word or phrase that inspires you. So maybe you go down that road. Maybe there's a TED Talk out there. Maybe there's a online group of people who talk about this theme on a regular basis and you didn't even know they existed, but Chat does. It'll find them. And by the way, I'm saying Chat, could be Grok, could be whatever your favorite AI platform is. The point is leverage the technology that's available to us to find out how to look at this theme through many more lenses than your own, because you may find out that multiplies the benefit that you get from that theme when you realize, oh my gosh, there's more out there. And I think that word curiosity would be all by itself a great theme word, first of all, but it could also be the motivation to be more curious about, well, what else could this theme mean? What other impact could this theme have? What else is possible if I truly embrace this theme? And we've talked about the pros and cons of AI in previous episodes. This would be one I would leverage as a pro because you and I have a limited knowledge of what's out in the world. AI can grab all the information, bring it back, and then you get to decide. Does any of it inspire me to take that theme further than I would have on my own?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, anything else to add to this topic before we wrap this one up?
Well, the one I'll throw out because it does happen. Themes in this context are often early in the planning process for the year, but sometimes our year doesn't go according to the plan. Sometimes I want to be sensitive to our listening audience because I never know what someone's going through. But we all make plans only to find out from time to time that some event is going to change that plan and you didn't choose it. It chose you. And you're either going to go with the flow that redirect took you, or you're going to fight that flow and it's going to be a different kind of year. If something is going to majorly intersect, and by majorly, I mean, literally T-bone you, really take you off your course, consider whether your theme continues to inspire you in this new context or if it needs to be revisited. And like I said earlier, the theme is there to serve you, not you to serve it. So if that happens, give yourself permission to say, yeah, I thought this year was going to be about that. Turns out it's going to be about this. And be flexible to that. I know I've quoted the old 80s pop rock classic, Hold On Loosely, because it really is a great theme as well. Sometimes if you hold on loosely and don't let go, you've got more flexibility to maneuver when real life happens. And I just think that gives you some latitude. So don't hold it with a death grip. It's there to serve
Mhm.
you in a meaningful way. But if it needs to be changed, then change it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good reminder for all of us. And also there is a theme spot on the quarterly plan as well. So you can have multiple. That's okay too. So just as we're being flexible, that's all right as well.
Yeah, that's often where that's a very tactical example of where that theme shows up as the year progresses. And I think that's exactly right. If your theme that you set at the beginning of the year is driving those quarterly plans and it flows through all of them, almost like a thread through each plan, wonderful. But maybe it doesn't. And maybe by the time you get to the third quarter, that theme needs an upgrade. And so, yeah, that's a great place to revisit that exercise. Is it time to, you know, kick it to the curb? There's your new theme. It's a refresh. Let's start this year over.
Absolutely. Well, great. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to close this episode out. We've been talking about choosing a theme for the year, and we hope that you listen, watch us on YouTube, share, like, and thank you so much for your support. We appreciate Building Champions and their support as well. So thanks for listening today.